Hey guys, welcome to Real Talk Cinema. Today we're diving into The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, 2019, a gripping South Korean crime action thriller packed with intense twists, gritty action, and complex characters. Clocking in at 1 hour and 50 minutes, this film skillfully blends suspense and raw emotion to deliver a memorable experience. The unlikely alliance between the gangster Jang Dong-soo and Detective Jung Tae-seok serves as the emotional and narrative heart of The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, challenging conventional crime thriller dynamics by forcing two fundamentally opposed characters into a reluctant partnership forged by necessity rather than trust or friendship. This alliance is more than a mere plot device. It's a powerful exploration of human survival instincts and the ways in which extreme circumstances can dissolve rigid moral boundaries. Dong-soo, a man shaped by violence and crime, is not a hero in the traditional sense, yet his survival instinct and personal code compel him to seek justice in his own brutal way. Meanwhile, Jung Tae-seok represents law enforcement and societal order, but he too is imperfect, driven by his own demons and a dogged determination to stop the devil. Their collaboration is fraught with tension, mistrust, and conflicting goals, which mirrors the complex realities of crime and justice where clear-cut heroes and villains rarely exist. This partnership exposes the audience to uncomfortable truths about the human condition. That sometimes, fighting evil requires uncomfortable alliances and moral compromises. The film invites viewers to question their assumptions about good and evil, making the alliance a metaphor for the messy, contradictory nature of morality itself. It also adds layers of suspense and emotional complexity as viewers are drawn into the evolving relationship, uncertain whether these two men can truly work together without succumbing to their darker impulses. In this way, the film's heart beats strongest in this alliance, where survival, vengeance, and justice collide in a gripping, unpredictable dance of power and vulnerability. The moral ambiguity in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is one of its most compelling narrative layers, compelling the audience to rethink traditional binaries of good versus evil. Unlike many crime thrillers where the cop is an unquestioned force of good and the gangster a clear villain, this film complicates those roles by placing its characters in a world where survival and justice require bending or breaking the rules. Jang Dong-soo, the gangster, is a man who lives by his own brutal code. His violent actions are often unforgivable, yet the film presents him as a character capable of loyalty, honor, and a strange kind of justice, making him difficult to categorize simply as a villain. Meanwhile, Detective Jung Tae-seok, the symbol of law enforcement, is equally flawed. His pursuit of justice sometimes pushes him into morally gray actions, blurring the line between lawful duty and personal vengeance. This fluidity of morality forces viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature and society, that justice isn't always served through clean black and white actions, but often through complex decisions laden with compromise and sacrifice. By avoiding clear-cut heroes and villains, the film reflects the real world's ethical complexities and challenges audiences to empathize with characters acting out of desperation, fear, and survival instinct. This narrative choice elevates the movie beyond a simple crime thriller, transforming it into a psychological and philosophical exploration of what justice really means when the systems designed to uphold it fall short. Jang Dong-soo, the gangster at the center of The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, is a masterclass in character complexity that defies the typical portrayal of criminals in cinema. Far from being a one-dimensional villain, Dong-soo is crafted with layers that reveal both his brutal nature and his deeply human qualities, making him a protagonist that challenges viewers' expectations and sympathies. His loyalty to his close associates and adherence to a personal code of honor distinguish him from the cold, remorseless killers often depicted in crime films. This complexity invites the audience to see him not merely as a perpetrator of violence, but as a man shaped by his environment, driven by survival instincts, and capable of emotional depth. The film uses Dong-soo's wounds, both physical and psychological, as symbols of his vulnerability, reminding viewers that beneath his tough exterior lies a man who, despite his flaws, seeks justice and retribution on his own terms. This nuanced portrayal blurs the lines between hero and anti-hero, forcing the audience to confront the uncomfortable reality that human beings cannot be easily categorized into good or evil. Dong-seok's character serves as a mirror to the film's central themes of morality and justice, as he navigates a dangerous world where the stakes are survival and vengeance, making his journey as compelling emotionally as it is narratively. His evolution from a self-serving gangster to a man willing to face a terrifying adversary alongside a cop underscores the film's exploration of unlikely alliances and the complexity of human nature in the face of evil. The character of the devil in The Gangster, the cop, the devil is a chilling embodiment of pure, unrelenting evil, whose presence looms over the entire film as a dark force that disrupts the fragile balance between order and chaos. Unlike the complex and morally ambiguous protagonists, the devil is portrayed with minimal dialogue and maximum menace, relying on silence and cold, calculated violence to instill terror not only in the characters but also in the audience. His methodical nature, striking without remorse, precision, or hesitation, creates an atmosphere of constant dread, as he is not driven by personal vendettas or emotional impulses, but by a disturbing detachment from humanity. This detachment sets him apart as an almost supernatural figure of death, making his brutality all more terrifying because it lacks clear motivation or rationale. The devil's relentless pursuit of his victims becomes a dark mirror reflecting the desperation and vulnerability of the other characters, forcing them to confront their own fears and limitations. His presence disrupts the usual crime thriller formula by introducing a nearly unstoppable force of evil that demands a coalition between two unlikely allies to survive. This stark contrast between the devil's pure malevolence and the moral ambiguity of the protagonists elevates the tension and drives the narrative forward, as every encounter with him carries the weight of potential doom. The character's silence, cold efficiency, and merciless killings make him one of the most memorable and frightening villains in recent Korean cinema, embodying the existential threat that both human law and criminal codes struggle to contain. One of the most masterful storytelling techniques in The Gangster, the cop, the devil, is its use of silence to build an almost unbearable tension that permeates the film's atmosphere. Director Lee Won-tae deliberately employs long, quiet moments where dialogue is minimal or completely absent, allowing the audience to sink into the unsettling stillness before violence erupts. These silences are not empty. Rather, they are charged with anticipation, fear, and the weight of unspoken threats. In a narrative filled with brutality and chaos, the quiet moments serve as a stark contrast, heightening the emotional impact of the ensuing action. The silence compels viewers to focus on subtle visual cues, like a glance, a twitch, or the slow approach of danger, transforming ordinary scenes into nerve-wracking experiences. This technique mirrors the character's own psychological states, the lurking fear, the tense calculations, and the cold patience of both predator and prey. By mastering the art of silence, the film creates a suspense that is psychological as much as physical, making the eventual bursts of violence more shocking and meaningful. The audience is invited to inhabit a world where the calm before the storm is just as terrifying as the storm itself, deepening the emotional engagement and the sense of dread. This deliberate pacing and mood building through silence is a key element that elevates the film beyond typical action thrillers into a gripping, immersive experience. The brutal action scenes in The Gangster, the cop, the devil are not merely designed to thrill or entertain. They serve as visceral expressions of the film's harsh reality and the physical and psychological stakes faced by its characters. Each fight sequence is raw and unforgiving, stripped of the glossy choreography often found in mainstream action movies, instead presenting violence as chaotic, painful, and grounded in consequence. The gritty realism of these scenes immerses the viewer in the palpable danger that looms over every interaction, emphasizing the desperation and survival instincts driving both the gangster and the cop. This brutal honesty in action heightens the tension, as each blow landed feels heavy with risk and meaning. No one is invincible, and every encounter could be fatal. The choreography reflects the personalities of the fighters. Dong-seok's fighting style is aggressive and instinctual, shaped by years of street violence, while Tae-seok's combat is disciplined yet desperate, reflecting his resolve to stop the devil at any cost. These violent clashes also reveal deeper emotional undercurrents: rage, fear, and determination, making the action an extension of the character's internal struggles. By delivering action scenes that are as emotionally charged as they are physically intense, the film elevates its storytelling, ensuring that violence never feels gratuitous but integral to the narrative's exploration of survival, justice, and the human cost of confrontation. Loyalty is a deeply ingrained theme in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, acting as a powerful driving force that shapes character motivations and relationships throughout the film. For Jang Dong-soo, loyalty is not just a personal virtue, but the very code that governs his existence within the violent, chaotic world he inhabits. Despite his criminal nature, Dong-soo's fierce allegiance to his close circle and his willingness to protect those he considers family reveal a humanity that complicates his role as a gangster. This sense of loyalty also fuels his relentless pursuit of the devil, transforming his quest from mere self preservation into a mission of justice and retribution for those he cares about. On the other side, Detective Jung Tae-seok's loyalty is tied to his duty to the law and to society. But even this is tested as he navigates the uneasy alliance with Dong-soo. The tension between personal loyalty and professional obligation underscores much of the film's emotional conflict, illustrating how loyalty can both bind people together and push them into morally ambiguous territory. Through these layered portrayals, the film suggests that loyalty is not a simple or static concept, but a complex, sometimes dangerous force that can inspire courage and sacrifice, but also blindness and brutality. This nuanced exploration adds depth to the characters and raises poignant questions about who we owe our loyalty to and at what cost. The atmospheric cinematography in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil plays a crucial role in immersing the audience into its dark and gritty world, crafting a visual style that heightens tension and emotional intensity throughout the film. Every frame is meticulously composed to reflect the film's themes of danger, mistrust, and looming violence. The use of dim lighting, shadows, and muted color palettes creates an oppressive mood that mirrors the psychological states of the characters trapped, hunted, and on edge. The camera often lingers on close ups of faces, capturing subtle expressions of fear, suspicion, and determination, which deepen the emotional resonance beyond the dialogue. Wide shots of desolate streets and claustrophobic interiors evoke sense of isolation and vulnerability, emphasizing the precariousness of the characters' situations. Additionally, the pacing of shots, lingering long enough to build unease but cutting swiftly to sudden action, enhances the suspense and unpredictability of the narrative. This visual storytelling invites viewers to experience the tension firsthand, making the environment itself feel like a character that pressures and influences the protagonist's every move. The cinematography's rich textures and carefully chosen visual motifs elevate the film beyond a standard crime thriller, transforming it into a sensory experience that draws audiences deep into its dark, perilous world. At the core of The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, lies a riveting psychological battle that transcends mere physical confrontation, delving deeply into the minds and motivations of its central characters. The film meticulously explores how fear, control, and survival instincts shape the interactions between Jang Dong-soo, Detective Jung Tae-seok, and the enigmatic devil. This mental chess game is as intense and consequential as any fight scene, with each character constantly probing the weaknesses and intentions of the others. Dong-soo's hardened exterior masks a man wrestling with vulnerability and a desperate need for justice, while Tae-seok balances his role as a law enforcer with personal desperation and moral compromise. Meanwhile, the devil operates as a shadowy, almost primal force, embodying chaos and pure menace without clear motive, making him a psychological enigma the others must outwit. The tension in their exchanges is often conveyed through silence, glances, and subtle gestures, creating an atmosphere thick with unease and anticipation. This layered psychological warfare heightens the film's suspense and complexity, inviting viewers to engage not just with the physical stakes, but the emotional and intellectual struggles that define each character's fight for dominance, survival, and meaning in a world governed by violence and uncertainty. In The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, the urban landscape transcends its role as mere backdrop and emerges as a silent but powerful character that shapes the story's mood and the fate of its protagonists. The city's grimy streets, dimly lit alleys, and claustrophobic interiors reflect the darkness and corruption that permeate the narrative, reinforcing the themes of danger, entrapment, and moral decay. This setting is not just a passive environment, but an active force that influences the characters' movements, decisions, and vulnerabilities. The labyrinthine cityscape mirrors the complex, intertwined relationships and the cat and mouse game between the gangster, the cop, and the devil, emphasizing how each corner or shadow could conceal danger or salvation. The urban terrain's cold, oppressive atmosphere underscores the isolation and desperation of the characters, making the city feel like a living, breathing entity that watches and reacts to their every step. Through careful framing and lighting, the film uses the cityscape to evoke a sense of unease and inevitability, where violence and betrayal lurk just beneath the surface. This dynamic portrayal of the urban environment enriches the storytelling, grounding the psychological and physical battles in a tangible, evocative world that enhances the film's tension and thematic depth. The sound design and music in The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil play an essential role in shaping the film's atmosphere, subtly manipulating tension and emotional undercurrents without overpowering the narrative. The soundtrack is sparingly used, often relying on minimalist and haunting melodies that heighten the sense of dread and uncertainty enveloping the characters. Instead of a constant musical score, the film employs silence and ambient sounds, the distant hum of the city, footsteps echoing down empty corridors, the sudden snap of a breaking bone, to draw the viewer deeper into its unsettling world. These carefully crafted audio elements accentuate moments of suspense, making even the quietest scenes feel charged with potential violence. The contrast between silence, natural sounds, and sudden bursts of aggressive music intensify the psychological impact of the story, mirroring the internal states of fear, anger, and desperation that drive the characters. By using sound not merely as background but as a narrative device, the film enhances its immersive quality, allowing the audience to experience the raw emotional and physical tension as if they were in the room with the characters. This sophisticated use of sound design is a testament to the film's meticulous craftsmanship and its commitment to creating a fully realized, visceral thriller. One of the most fascinating dynamics in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is the unlikely and uneasy alliance forged between Dong-seok, a ruthless gangster, and Detective Tae-seok, a determined cop. At first glance, these two figures represent opposing forces, one operating outside the law, the other upholding it, yet their mutual pursuit of the sadistic devil forces them into a reluctant partnership. This alliance is layered with tension, mistrust, and conflicting motivations, but it also highlights a deeper shared humanity and a common goal that transcends their differences. The film explores how survival and justice can blur traditional lines of allegiance, forcing characters to collaborate in ways they never imagined. Their partnership is fragile, constantly tested by betrayal, pride, and the inherent contradictions between their worlds, but it also becomes a powerful narrative device that challenges viewers' perceptions of morality and cooperation. Through this complex relationship, the film delves into themes of pragmatism versus idealism, showing how sometimes, in the face of overwhelming evil, the most unlikely alliances can become necessary. This tension and uneasy camaraderie enrich the story, making the characters' journeys more compelling and their eventual cooperation feel earned and emotionally resonant. Revenge is a powerful driving force that propels much of the narrative tension in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, shaping the characters' motivations and actions with a visceral intensity. For Jung Dong-soo, the desire for revenge against the devil is deeply personal, sparked not only by his own near-fatal attack, but also by the threat posed to his loyalty-bound inner circle. This quest for vengeance transforms him from a mere criminal into a relentless force, willing to confront unimaginable danger to reclaim control and justice on his own terms. Detective Jung Tae-seok, while motivated by duty, is also drawn into this cycle of retribution, blurring the lines between lawful justice and personal vendetta. The film explores how revenge can become a double-edged sword, fueling determination and strength, yet also risking destruction and moral compromise. Through the character's pursuit of retribution, the story delves into the psychological toll of vengeance, exposing how it can consume individuals, cloud judgment, and perpetuate cycles of violence. Rather than glorifying revenge, the film presents it as a complex, often destructive emotion that challenges characters' sense of right and wrong. This nuanced treatment adds emotional depth to the thriller, inviting viewers to reflect on the costs of revenge and whether true justice can ever be achieved through it. The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil employs a carefully calibrated pacing and narrative structure that masterfully balances moments of quiet tension with explosive bursts of action, keeping the audience constantly engaged and emotionally invested. The film unfolds with a deliberate slowness in the beginning, allowing viewers to become deeply acquainted with the characters' motivations and the grim world they inhabit. This gradual build-up is essential in creating a foundation of suspense as it sets the tone and allows the tension to simmer beneath the surface. As the story progresses, the pacing quickens, especially during action sequences and pivotal confrontations, mirroring the escalating stakes and emotional intensity faced by the characters. The narrative structure is tightly woven, interlacing the parallel journeys of the gangster, the cop, and the devil with precision, ensuring that each thread builds toward a climactic convergence. This interplay between slower, character driven scenes and fast paced, violent episodes creates a rhythm that sustains interest and deepens the emotional resonance. Additionally, the film's use of flashbacks and shifts in perspective enriches the storytelling, providing insight into the character's past and motivations without disrupting the flow. Overall, the pacing and narrative design contribute significantly to the film's effectiveness, making the suspense feel earned and the climax impactful, while maintaining a strong emotional connection with the audience throughout. One of the most powerful narrative engines in The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil, is its use of plot twists that subvert expectations and deepen the story's moral complexity. As the film progresses, what initially appears to be a straightforward alliance between a cop and a gangster quickly morphs into a volatile relationship built on mistrust, manipulation, and necessity. Both characters, Detective Jung Tae-seok and gangster Jang Dong-soo, constantly test each other's limits, and the viewer is never entirely sure whether either man will uphold his end of the bargain. This constant shifting of loyalty mirrors the chaotic and morally gray world they inhabit. One especially poignant twist occurs when information is deliberately withheld, only to be revealed at a crucial moment, flipping the narrative on its head and altering how we view each character's motivations. These reversals not only inject suspense and emotional tension into the story, but also highlight the film's central theme: that in a world driven by violence and survival, trust is a currency few can afford to spend. The twists are not cheap shocks, they are carefully planted and richly earned, keeping the audience fully engaged and questioning the true intentions of every character involved. The gangster, the cop, the devil operates on more than just a surface level of action and suspense. It quietly delivers a potent critique of institutional failure and the murky ethics within law enforcement. Throughout the film, the official justice system is portrayed as slow, ineffective, and often bound by bureaucracy, leaving victims vulnerable and justice delayed or denied. This ineffectiveness creates the very conditions under which a gangster like Jang Dong-soo becomes a necessary ally in the pursuit of justice. The film asks a difficult question: when the legal system fails to protect the public, is it justifiable to rely on criminals to restore order? Detective Jung Tae-seok, despite his role as a law enforcer, is forced to bend the rules, manipulate evidence, and partner with a known felon. Not because he wants to, but because the system ties his hands. By blurring the boundaries between right and wrong, the film critiques a world where justice is not about morality, but about utility and results. This commentary is never overt or didactic. Instead, it simmers beneath the surface, embedded in the choices characters make and the compromises they are forced into, making the story resonate on a deeper societal level. Pacing is one of the film's most masterful storytelling tools, and it plays a crucial role in sustaining tension from start to finish. The gangster, the cop, the devil knows when to hold back and when to unleash chaos, creating a rhythm that keeps viewers on edge. The slower, quieter scenes, often filled with long silences, subtle glances, or meticulous investigation, allow tension to build gradually, almost unbearably, before erupting into sudden bursts of violence or revelation. This contrast between calm and chaos mirrors the psychological state of the characters, particularly the internal struggles of both the cop and the gangster as they navigate their uneasy partnership. Director Lee Won-tae avoids the trap of relentless action, instead using downtime strategically to deepen character development and escalate stakes. Each scene feels deliberate, with no wasted moments, which ensures the audience remains emotionally invested and constantly anticipating what's next. This pacing structure makes the film feel like a tightly coiled spring, releasing tension only when it will have the most impact. As a result, the narrative never stagnates, and the suspense is sustained right up until the final frame, making it a truly gripping experience. At the heart of The Gangster, the cop, the devil is a compelling character study that hinges on the sharp contrast between its two leads. Dong-seok, the gangster, embodies raw physical dominance. He's a man who commands respect through fear and sheer power, solving problems with fists and intimidation. In stark opposition, Detective Dong-seok is cerebral, meticulous, and driven by an unwavering commitment to justice, even if it means bending the rules. This dichotomy isn't just a stylistic choice, it's fundamental to the story's dynamic tension and emotional depth. Their contrasting methods lead to frequent clashes, but it's also what makes their reluctant partnership effective. What one lacks, the other compensates for. As they pursue a common enemy, their differences become their strength, creating a push and pull relationship that evolves from antagonism to mutual reliance. This interplay also serves a larger thematic function. It reflects the duality of human nature and the idea that good and evil aren't absolutes but exist on a spectrum. Through this character contrast, the film not only enhances its drama but also invites viewers to reconsider their assumptions about morality, strength, and justice. The urban landscape in The Gangster, the cop, the devil is more than just a backdrop. It's a reflection of the characters' internal turmoil and the moral decay that permeates their world. The film's setting is drenched in grit. Dimly lit alleys, crowded intersections, flickering neon signs, and constant rainfall create a suffocating atmosphere that feels both oppressive and alive. This visual environment mirrors the emotional and ethical bleakness faced by the characters. The city feels indifferent, almost predatory, a place where violence can erupt at any moment and where justice is buried under layers of corruption and survival instincts. The recurring presence of rain, in particular, adds a noir-like tone, symbolizing both cleansing and relentless tension, washing over the streets as if trying and failing to rinse away the blood and grime. This detailed urban aesthetic grounds the story in a harsh realism while also elevating the film's psychological weight. It reinforces the sense that the characters are not just fighting a serial killer, but also navigating a broken system and a decaying world, making every confrontation feel more urgent and every choice more consequential. The gangster, the cop, the devil is a masterclass in restraint when it comes to dialogue. Rather than relying on extended exposition or dramatic speeches, the film trusts its characters and its audience to communicate and understand through subtext, silence, and physical presence. Many of the film's most powerful moments are nearly wordless. A glance exchanged between rivals, a tense pause before a violent act, or a clenched jaw signaling suppressed rage or fear. This minimalist approach enhances realism and allows the actors' performances to shine, particularly Ma Dong-seok's portrayal of Dong-soo, whose imposing figure and nuanced facial expressions speak volumes without a word. The absence of excessive dialogue also builds suspense. Conversations are terse and purposeful, with every line carrying weight. It creates a rhythm where silence becomes as meaningful as speech, and body language becomes a crucial storytelling tool. This dialogue economy not only keeps the pacing tight and immersive, but also deepens the emotional resonance, drawing viewers closer to the characters' inner struggles without needing to spell them out. It's storytelling that respects the intelligence of its audience while maximizing impact through subtlety. In The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil, the fight choreography stands out for its raw, unflinching realism. Unlike many stylized action films that rely on flashy moves or exaggerated sequences, the combat here feels visceral, exhausting, and grounded in physicality. Every punch lands with weight, every scuffle feels chaotic and dangerous, and there's a brutal honesty to how violence unfolds. No slow motion glamour, no superhuman agility, just the sheer desperation and force of people fighting for survival. Ma Dong-seok's imposing physical presence is used to full effect. His fighting style is more about power and endurance than finesse, perfectly fitting his character's personality and street experience. The choreography emphasizes struggle. Fighters slip, get winded, and make mistakes, which adds a layer of tension and believability. The tight framing and gritty cinematography bring viewers uncomfortably close to the action, making each blow and injury feel personal. These scenes don't just serve as adrenaline rushes, they are integral to character development, revealing vulnerability, rage, and dominance without needing words. The film's dedication to realistic fight scenes not only heightens its intensity, but also reinforces its commitment to portraying violence as a consequence, not a spectacle. At the core of The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil lies a deeply emotional current that drives its two central characters beyond mere duty or survival, personal loss and unresolved trauma. For Detective Jung Tae-seok, his relentless pursuit of the serial killer isn't just professional ambition, it's fueled by a growing frustration with a justice system that fails to protect the innocent. His obsessive need to catch the killer stems from a desire to reclaim a sense of control and righteousness in a corrupt world. On the other hand, Jang Dong-soo's motivation is intensely personal. Surviving an attack from the devil shatters his aura of invincibility and dents his criminal reputation, something he cannot afford in his violent world. But more than pride, it awakens a raw, survival-driven fury. His need for revenge is about reasserting power, yes, but also about facing his own vulnerability and fear, emotions that he, as a gangster, is never allowed to show. These motivations do more than just push the plot forward. They humanize both men. They're not symbols of good or evil, but flawed individuals shaped by pain. Their trauma influences how they see justice, vengeance, and trust, creating a compelling psychological layer that gives the action emotional weight. In the end, their decisions and sacrifices resonate more deeply because we understand what drives them, the scars they carry, and the humanity they're trying not to lose. The cinematography in The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil plays a crucial narrative role by visually reinforcing the psychological tension that defines the film. Director Lee Won-tae and his cinematographer employed tight, constricted framing to create a pervasive sense of claustrophobia and emotional pressure. Many scenes are shot in narrow hallways, confined offices, or inside cramped vehicles, visually trapping the characters in spaces that reflect their limited choices and mounting desperation. This technique mirrors the characters' emotional states. Both the cop and the gangster are boxed in by circumstances, haunted by their pasts, and caught in a deadly game where every move carries immense risk. The camera often lingers uncomfortably close to faces, capturing subtle shifts in expression, emphasizing unspoken tension, and making the viewer feel the intensity of each moment. When the action bursts forth, the camera stays tight and shaky, heightening the sense of immediacy and danger, rather than pulling back for a polished cinematic view. Combined with muted colors and shadow-heavy lighting, the cinematography maintains a somber, oppressive atmosphere that matches the film's tone. This visual language reinforces the idea that in the world these characters inhabit, there is no escape, only confrontation, and perhaps redemption through violence. In the gangster, the cop, the devil, trust is not freely given. It's a rare, fragile commodity that both characters must cautiously navigate. The alliance between Jang Dong-soo and Detective Jung Tae-seok is forged not from friendship or shared values, but from mutual necessity against a common enemy. Both men come from worlds steeped in betrayal. Dong-soo from the ruthless criminal underworld, and Tae-seok from a law enforcement system riddled with corruption and limitations. This shared skepticism makes their tentative cooperation tense and fraught with suspicion. Throughout the film, trust evolves incrementally, often tested by moments of deceit, conflicting agendas, and life or death decisions. Each interaction requires calculated risk, and neither side is fully convinced of the other's sincerity. This dynamic heightens the psychological complexity of the narrative. It's not just about catching a killer, but about whether two fundamentally opposed individuals can put aside their differences and believe in one another, even briefly. Trust here symbolizes more than just collaboration. It reflects the character's struggles to reclaim a semblance of control and humanity in a chaotic world. The delicate balance of trust and doubt adds emotional depth and suspense, keeping viewers engaged as alliances shift and loyalties are questioned until the very end. The gangster, the cop, the devil, cleverly uses narrative symmetry to explore the fluid and often blurred boundaries between hunter and hunted. At the start, the roles seem clear. The devil is the predator, a cold, methodical killer stalking his victims with terrifying precision, while the gangster and the cop are his prey, both trying to evade or capture him. However, as the plot unfolds, these roles shift repeatedly. Dong-soo, the gangster, transitions from victim to aggressor, fueled by his thirst for revenge and survival instinct. Detective Jung Tae-seok also oscillates between pursuer and protector, often stepping into the predator's shoes when he adopts ruthless tactics to catch the killer. This shifting dynamic underscores the film's thematic focus on moral ambiguity and power. No character remains fixed in their role, which keeps the tension high and the narrative unpredictable. The story structure echoes this dance of dominance and vulnerability, with each character's position in the predator-prey hierarchy continually evolving. This symmetry not only intensifies the psychological suspense, but also invites the audience to question who truly holds power, and whether, in such a brutal world, anyone is ever truly safe from becoming prey. A chilling element that elevates the tension in The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is the killer's unmistakable signature, a haunting and methodical pattern left on each victim that becomes both a narrative and psychological tool. Unlike random acts of violence, the devil's murders are marked by a consistent, sinister detail, which not only sets him apart as a meticulous and calculating predator, but also provides critical clues for the investigation. These distinctive marks act as a dark fingerprint, linking the crimes together and giving the cop and gangster a tangible trail to follow. More than just forensic breadcrumbs, the killer's signature symbolizes his cold control and deliberate cruelty, heightening the audience's sense of dread. It reminds viewers that this is not just chaos or random brutality, but a calculated terror designed to instill fear and exert power. As the investigation unfolds, these marks become a psychological battleground, a way for the devil to taunt his pursuers and assert dominance. This element also deepens the cat-and-mouse nature of the story, turning the killer's brutal artistry into a crucial storytelling device that drives both the plot and character motivations forward with relentless intensity. In The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, blood is more than just a physical consequence of violence. It is a potent symbol that underscores the film's exploration of pain, sacrifice, and the moral cost of vengeance. Rather than saturating the screen with gore, the film uses blood sparingly, allowing each drop to carry significant emotional and narrative weight. When blood appears, it serves as a stark reminder of the brutality inherent in the character's world and the irreversible damage caused by their choices. The film also uses blood symbolically to trace the characters' journeys, especially Dong-seok's wounded leg, which becomes a recurring visual metaphor for his vulnerability and the heavy toll of his quest for justice. Bloodstains mark turning points in the story, signifying moments where the lines between victim and aggressor blur and where personal sacrifice becomes unavoidable. This careful and deliberate use of blood heightens the film's dark, somber mood and forces the audience to confront the often grim reality that revenge, while satisfying, comes with a deep, sometimes devastating price. It transforms the physical violence into something psychological and thematic, deepening the film's emotional resonance. A defining strength of the gangster, the cop, the devil is the palpable chemistry between its leads, Ma Dong-seok, Jang Dong-soo, and Kim Mu-yeol, Detective Jung Tae-seok. Their performances don't just coexist, they dynamically bounce off each other, creating a charged energy that fuels the film's emotional and narrative momentum. Ma Dong-seok's rugged, imposing presence contrasts perfectly with Kim Mu-yeol's restrained, intense demeanor, making their interactions feel unpredictable yet deeply compelling. This chemistry elevates the uneasy alliance beyond mere plot convenience, turning it into a layered exploration of trust, power, and survival. Moments of confrontation are charged with tension, while fleeting instances of cooperation carry a fragile, almost reluctant respect. Their nuanced exchanges, sometimes silent, sometimes terse, reveal complex emotions beneath the surface, such as fear, anger, and vulnerability. This dynamic not only humanizes the characters, but also immerses the audience in their fraught relationship, making every alliance, betrayal, or sacrifice feel personal and urgent. The film's success hinges largely on this electric rapport, which anchors the story in authentic emotional stakes amidst its brutal, suspenseful plot. The gangster, the cop, the devil deliberately steers away from a conventional, neatly tied up ending, choosing instead to embrace ambiguity and moral complexity. The climax doesn't offer a clear-cut victory for good over evil. Rather, it leaves viewers questioning the true nature of justice and the consequences of vengeance. This refusal to provide a simplistic resolution challenges audience expectations, forcing them to grapple with the ethical dilemmas presented throughout the film. The ambiguous ending reflects the unpredictable, chaotic world the characters inhabit, where actions have ripple effects, loyalties remain fragile, and the line between hero and villain blurs. It's satisfying not because it answers all questions, but because it feels honest and true to the story's themes of moral ambiguity and survival. By leaving certain fates unresolved or open to interpretation, the film encourages viewers to ponder the cost of violence and whether redemption is truly attainable. This nuanced conclusion elevates the narrative beyond a typical crime thriller, offering a haunting, thought-provoking finale that lingers long after the credits roll. In The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, romance is notably understated, woven delicately into the story without overshadowing the intense crime and psychological thriller elements. Rather than a full-blown romantic arc, the film opts for fleeting moments and subtle gestures that suggest emotional longing, vulnerability, and human connection amid chaos. These understated touches serve to humanize the characters, particularly Dong-soo and Tae-seok, reminding the audience that even amid violence and moral ambiguity, the need for connection persists. This subtle romance provides a quiet counterbalance to the film's darker themes, adding depth without detracting from the central plot. It enhances character development by revealing softer layers and motivations behind their hardened exteriors. By resisting melodrama or cliché, the romance feels authentic and grounded, contributing to the film's overall realism and emotional resonance. This approach enriches the narrative, showing that amid the brutal struggle for survival and justice, personal relationships, even if understated, remain essential to the character's humanity. One of the film's standout qualities is its commitment to realistic, natural dialogue that enhances immersion without resorting to genre cliches or overused tropes. The characters speak in a way that feels true to their backgrounds, social status, and emotional states, which grounds the story in authenticity. Whether it's the gangster's blunt, often terse manner, or the cop's professional yet occasionally vulnerable tone, their exchanges reflect real human interaction rather than scripted exposition. This naturalistic dialogue helps to build believable relationships and heightens the tension by making conversations feel charged with subtext. What's left unsaid often carries as much weight as spoken words. It also allows the film to convey complex emotions and plot details without feeling forced or melodramatic. The avoidance of cliches, like over the top threats, dramatic monologues, or predictable one liners, gives the film a fresh voice within the crime thriller genre, making its characters more relatable and the stakes more immediate for the audience. The gangster, the cop, the devil goes beyond surface level thrills by deeply exploring the psychological scars that violence and crime inflict on both victims and perpetrators. The film doesn't portray its characters as mere archetypes, villain, hero, or victim, but instead as complex individuals haunted by trauma and emotional pain. The gangster, Dong-seok, carries the psychological weight of vulnerability and fear beneath his tough exterior, while Detective Tae-seok wrestles with frustration and obsession driven by his sense of justice and past failures. The devil, as the antagonist, embodies cold cruelty, but also a disturbing detachment from human empathy, highlighting the chilling mental state of a serial killer. The film carefully examines how trauma shapes behavior, motivations, and relationships, giving the narrative a layered intensity. This psychological depth elevates the film from a typical crime thriller into a study of human nature under extreme duress. It invites viewers to empathize, question morality, and understand the emotional consequences of violence, not just the physical ones, making the story richer and more thought-provoking. The gangster, the cop, the devil is deeply rooted in its Korean cultural and social context, which adds a rich layer of meaning and authenticity to the narrative. The film doesn't just tell a crime thriller story, it reflects contemporary issues within South Korean society, such as the complexities of justice, authority, and social hierarchy. The gangster's code of honor, the police's procedural methods, and the social interactions all resonate with distinctly Korean values and tensions, providing texture that international audiences may find both fascinating and insightful. Moreover, the urban setting showcases Korea's gritty underbelly, contrasting with its often polished global image, and the film subtly critiques systemic flaws in law enforcement and societal power structures. These cultural nuances deepen character motivations and interactions, making their struggles more relatable and grounded. The setting enriches the story beyond genre conventions, offering a perspective that highlights both universal themes and uniquely Korean social dynamics, contributing to the film's global acclaim and appeal. In The Gangster, the Cop, the devil, costume design plays a subtle yet powerful role in visually defining character identities and highlighting their contrasting worlds. Jang Dong-soo, the gangster, is often seen wearing rugged, practical clothing, loose-fitting shirts, simple jackets, and dark tones that emphasize his rough, no-nonsense persona and street-level status. His attire reflects both his tough exterior and the vulnerability beneath, especially when his injuries and weariness come into focus. In contrast, Detective Young Tae-seok's more polished formal uniform and attire represent his role as an agent of law and order, but also hint at the constraints and expectations placed upon him by the justice system. This visual contrast reinforces the film's central theme of moral ambiguity, as these outward appearances mask complex, sometimes conflicting inner motivations. The costumes subtly signal class differences, personal codes, and the divide between legality and criminality without relying on dialogue, enriching the storytelling through visual cues that deepen the audience's understanding of each character's world and mindset. The editing in The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil is meticulously crafted to serve the film's shifting moods and narrative pacing. During intense action scenes, the editor employs sharp, quick cuts that create a rapid, kinetic energy, plunging the viewer into the chaos and brutality of the fights. This style heightens the sense of urgency and danger, making each punch and struggle feel immediate and visceral. Conversely, the investigation sequences adopt a slower, more deliberate editing rhythm, allowing tension to simmer and suspense to build gradually. These longer takes give space for the audience to absorb clues, character reactions, and the mounting psychological pressure. This contrast in editing styles mirrors the dual nature of the film, oscillating between explosive violence and cerebral pursuit, keeping the audience engaged and emotionally invested. The editing, therefore, is not just technical, but deeply tied to storytelling, enhancing both the adrenaline fueled moments and the quieter, suspenseful ones to maintain a balanced, gripping rhythm throughout the film. In The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil, silence is used as a powerful storytelling tool to build atmosphere and psychological suspense. Rather than filling scenes with constant dialogue or music, the film often opts for moments of quiet, where the absence of sound creates an uneasy stillness. These silences force the audience to focus intensely on subtle visual cues, body language, facial expressions, and the shifting dynamics between characters, making every glance and movement laden with meaning. This deliberate use of silence amplifies tension as viewers anticipate what might erupt next, whether it's a sudden act of violence or a critical revelation. The quiet moments act as a calm before the storm, heightening emotional impact by contrasting sharply with the brutal action that follows. By allowing silence to speak, the film engages audiences on a primal level, making the threats and dangers feel more immediate and ominous. This technique underscores the film's psychological depth and the unpredictability of its world, where danger lurks not just in action, but in the charged gaps between words. The gangster, the cop, the devil pushes traditional moral boundaries by positioning Dong-seok, a hardened gangster, as a central figure with whom the audience is invited to empathize. Unlike typical crime thrillers that clearly separate heroes from villains, this film blurs those lines, presenting Dong-seok as a flawed but deeply human character. His loyalty, honor, and personal code contrast sharply with his violent and criminal lifestyle, making him an anti-hero whose motivations and vulnerabilities resonate on a personal level. The film carefully reveals layers of Dong-seok's character, his pain, fears, and sense of justice, which encourages viewers to see beyond his rough exterior and question conventional notions of right and wrong. This nuanced portrayal challenges audiences to wrestle with their own judgments about morality and redemption. By eliciting sympathy for a character who operates outside the law, yet possesses relatable emotions and struggles, the film deepens its thematic exploration of justice and survival, making the story emotionally compelling and morally provocative. In The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil, supporting characters play pivotal roles beyond mere plot function. They act as moral foils that reflect and amplify the complexities within the protagonists. Characters like Detective Dong-seok's partner, other gang members, and law enforcement colleagues help to expose different facets of the main character's personalities, values, and struggles. For instance, the cop's partner often embodies the emotional heart of the investigation, showing empathy and concern that contrasts with Tae-seok's sometimes rigid pursuit of justice. Similarly, members of Dong-seok's gang highlight his leadership style, loyalty, and the tension between brutality and honor that define his character. These secondary figures create relational dynamics that bring the protagonist's internal conflicts into sharper relief, revealing doubts, fears, and ethical dilemmas that might otherwise remain hidden. By doing so, they enrich the narrative, making the main character's choices and transformations more impactful and nuanced. The supporting cast thus serves as mirrors and counterpoints, adding emotional depth and moral complexity to the film's tense, suspenseful story. Director Lee Won-tae demonstrates remarkable skill in The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil by blending familiar crime thriller and action genre elements with innovative narrative choices and deep character exploration. His vision goes beyond standard genre formulas, crafting a story that is both entertaining and thematically rich. Lee carefully balances intense action sequences with moments of psychological tension, using visual storytelling, pacing, and atmosphere to keep viewers fully engaged. His direction brings out strong performances, especially from the lead actors, while maintaining a coherent and suspenseful narrative that feels fresh rather than formulaic. Lee's use of moral ambiguity, subtle symbolism, and the shifting dynamics between characters elevates the film, making it resonate on multiple levels. This thoughtful approach not only revitalizes the crime thriller genre, but also contributes to the growing global appreciation of Korean cinema. Through his vision, Lee Won-tae delivers a film that is gripping, emotionally complex, and stylistically distinct. A standout achievement that leaves a lasting impression. Beyond the minimalist soundtrack, The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil employs meticulous sound design to build atmosphere and psychological intensity. Ambient sounds like dripping water, footsteps, city noises, and even silence are amplified or muted to reflect the character's mental state and the film's shifting tone. These subtle audio cues immerse the audience in the environment, making moments of suspense more palpable and action scenes more visceral. The sound design works hand in hand with the visuals and editing to create a sensory experience that heightens tension and emotional engagement. It's through these carefully crafted sounds that the film communicates unspoken threats, looming danger, and the fragile calm before chaos, making the auditory experience as compelling as the visual storytelling. This attention to sound detail enriches the film's immersive quality and suspenseful rhythm, proving that sometimes what you hear or don't hear is just as powerful as what you see. The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil offers a nuanced examination of masculinity by presenting its three main male characters as distinct representations of male identity, each grappling with power, vulnerability, and morality in different ways. Dong-seok, the gangster, embodies a raw and primal masculinity defined by physical strength, dominance, and a personal code of loyalty and honor. Yet beneath his tough exterior lies a deeply human vulnerability, especially as his injured leg symbolizes his mortality and the limits of his power. Dong-seok's brand of masculinity is one forged in the gritty underworld, where brutality is a survival tool, but where moments of empathy and sacrifice reveal his complexity beyond the stereotype of a ruthless criminal. Detective Dong-seok represents a contrasting, more restrained form of masculinity. His disciplined, methodical approach to justice reflects societal ideals of control, duty, and rationality. Tae-seok's masculinity is marked by intellectual rigor and emotional restraint, yet the film reveals cracks beneath this facade. His obsession with catching the devil hints at personal trauma and emotional struggle, suggesting that even the lawful man wrestles with inner demons. This contrast with Dong-seok's rawness highlights the tension between societal expectations of masculinity and the realities of emotional complexity. The devil himself stands as a chilling perversion of masculinity, a figure of cold detachment, cruelty, and nihilism. His violence is devoid of empathy, reflecting a toxic masculinity that revels in power for its own sake, unchecked by conscience or humanity. This portrayal serves as a dark mirror to the other characters, emphasizing the destructive potential when masculinity is warped into pure domination and fear. By exploring these varied depictions, the film delves into how masculinity intersects with power, morality, and vulnerability. It challenges viewers to reconsider simplistic notions of what it means to be a man, especially in a world marked by violence and moral ambiguity. This thematic layer enriches the narrative, inviting reflection on social pressures, identity, and the emotional costs of conforming to or resisting traditional masculine roles. Ultimately, the gangster, the cop, the devil uses its character's complex masculinity to deepen its psychological and cultural resonance, making it more than just a crime thriller, but a compelling study of human nature. In the gangster, the cop, the devil, revenge is more than a simple motive. It is a complex force that drives the character's actions while blurring the lines between justice and personal vendetta. Both Jang Dong-soo and Detective Young Tae-seok are propelled by a desire for retribution against the devil, but their quests reveal different facets of revenge's impact on the human psyche. For Dong-soo, revenge is deeply personal and visceral, tied to his survival and the protection of those he cares about. His pursuit is fueled by pain, fear, and a need to reclaim control in a world where violence threatens to consume him. Tae-seok's drive for revenge is intertwined with his professional duty, but also haunted by frustration at the limitations of the legal system. As their paths converge, the film exposes how revenge can become an obsession that overrides reason and morality, leading characters to question whether their actions serve justice or simply perpetuate a cycle of violence. The film challenges viewers to consider revenge's ambiguous nature. While it may provide a sense of empowerment or closure, it often comes at a steep moral and emotional cost. This theme enriches the narrative by complicating the traditional crime thriller trope of good versus evil, revealing how deeply human and conflicted the pursuit of vengeance can be. Through its layered exploration of revenge, the film underscores that in the struggle for justice, the lines between hero and villain, right and wrong, are often disturbingly blurred. The gangster, the cop, the devil intricately explores the fluid nature of power and control among its central characters, portraying how dominance and vulnerability constantly shift throughout the story. At first glance, Jang Dong-soo, as a powerful gangster, seems to wield unquestioned authority within his domain. However, his encounter with the devil shatters this perception, revealing his fragility and mortality. The devil's terrifying presence destabilizes Dong-soo's world, turning the hunter into the hunted and highlighting how quickly power can be usurped. Detective Young Tae-seok's authority, rooted in the law and social order, is similarly challenged. His investigative role positions him as a figure of control, but the film emphasizes the limits of institutional power when faced with unpredictable and brutal evil. As the uneasy alliance between Dong-soo and Tae-seok forms, power oscillates between them. Sometimes the gangster takes the lead with brute force, other times the cop steers the pursuit through intellect and procedure. This constant negotiation of control underscores the film's thematic complexity. Power is not fixed, but a fragile, contested space influenced by circumstance, fear, and trust. By portraying these shifts realistically, the film offers a nuanced look at how individuals respond to threats, protect themselves, and sometimes surrender control for survival. This dynamic treatment of power deepens character relationships and heightens narrative tension, making the story's stakes feel immediate and psychologically authentic. In the gangster, the cop, the devil, the urban environment isn't just a backdrop, it's a powerful symbol that reflects the film's dark themes of moral decay and lurking danger. The rain-soaked, grimy streets and shadowy alleys create an atmosphere of unease and unpredictability, mirroring the characters' internal turmoil and the blurred lines between good and evil. This decaying cityscape embodies a world where lawlessness festers beneath the surface, and survival often depends on navigating a harsh, unforgiving environment. The urban setting accentuates the film's exploration of corruption, both in the criminal underworld and within official institutions like the police force. It suggests that the environment itself is complicit in shaping behavior, breeding violence and mistrust. The oppressive cityscape also heightens the sense of entrapment felt by the characters, underscoring their struggles to break free from cycles of vengeance and moral compromise. Through its gritty depiction of the city, the film uses setting as a narrative device to deepen the psychological and thematic resonance, reinforcing that in this world, danger is omnipresent, not just from individuals, but from the very society that surrounds them. This layered symbolism enriches the film's tone, making the urban landscape a silent yet potent character in its own right. A central pillar of The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is the evolving relationship between Jang Dong-soo and Detective Jung Tae-seok, built precariously on trust, an element both scarce and invaluable in their dangerous world. Initially, their alliance is marked by deep suspicion, as each views the other through the lens of their own agendas and moral codes. Dong-soo's criminal background makes him inherently untrustworthy to Tae-seok, while the gangster is wary of law enforcement's intentions and limitations. As the story progresses, this fragile trust slowly develops, driven by mutual need and the shared goal of stopping the devil. Yet, the film never presents this trust as absolute or easy. It is continually tested by conflicting interests, secrets, and the shadow of betrayal, reflecting how alliances forged in crisis are often unstable. This nuanced portrayal highlights the complexity of human relationships under pressure, where trust can be both a strategic tool and an emotional gamble. By focusing on this tentative bond, the film deepens its emotional core and raises compelling questions about loyalty, cooperation, and the possibility of redemption across entrenched divides. The dynamic between Dong-soo and Tae-seok becomes a microcosm for the broader moral ambiguities the film explores, making trust itself a powerful thematic and narrative force. In The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, the antagonist operates not just through physical violence, but through psychological manipulation, making him a chilling embodiment of fear and control. The devil's sparse dialogue and cold demeanor amplify his menacing presence, forcing characters and the audience to confront the unsettling power of silence and unpredictability. His calculated cruelty instills paranoia and tension, disrupting the fragile alliances and mental stability of both Dong-soo and Tae-seok. The film portrays the devil's manipulation as a battle of wills, where fear becomes a weapon as potent as any physical attack. He exploits vulnerabilities, anticipates reactions, and maintains dominance not just by killing, but by destabilizing his victims' minds. This psychological warfare heightens the suspense and deepens the thriller aspect, elevating the film beyond a straightforward cat and mouse chase. By emphasizing psychological manipulation, the film explores themes of control, trauma, and the invisible scars inflicted by violence. It also challenges viewers to consider how terror operates on both visible and unseen levels, making the devil not just a physical threat, but a profound psychological force within the story's dark world. The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil delves deeply into the idea of justice, presenting it not as a clear-cut ideal but as a complicated, often conflicted pursuit shaped by personal motives, societal flaws, and moral ambiguity. Neither the gangster nor the cop embodies pure justice in the traditional sense. Instead, each operates within their own code and limitations. Dong-soo's sense of justice is tied to loyalty and survival within the criminal underworld, while Tae-seok's pursuit is bound by legal frameworks but tinged with frustration at the system's failures. The film challenges the audience to reconsider what justice means when the lines between right and wrong blur. Revenge, protection, and punishment intersect and collide, raising questions about who has the authority to enact justice and at what cost. The devil's senseless brutality further complicates this landscape, representing chaos and cruelty that defy any moral order. By portraying justice as an evolving and sometimes contradictory force, the film highlights the imperfections of human judgment and the moral compromises people make in extreme circumstances. This exploration adds depth and philosophical weight to the narrative, inviting viewers to grapple with the uneasy realities behind the pursuit of justice in a flawed world. In The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil, silence is employed as a powerful storytelling tool that enhances both suspense and emotional depth. Director Lee Wan-tae masterfully uses extended quiet moments, whether intense standoffs, lingering shots of characters' faces, or the stillness before violence erupts, to create an atmosphere thick with anticipation. These silences force the audience to focus intensely on visual cues like body language, eye movements, and subtle expressions, deepening their connection to the character's internal states. Silence also serves to unsettle viewers, breaking the rhythm and making sudden bursts of action or violence even more impactful. It's a way to convey unspoken tension, fear, and psychological strain without relying on dialogue or music. In scenes where words fail or are unnecessary, silence becomes a language of its own, one that communicates dread, uncertainty, and the weight of unresolved conflict. This deliberate use of quietness enriches the film's mood, allowing suspense to build organically and giving emotional moments room to breathe. By trusting the audience to engage with these silent spaces, the film achieves a heightened realism and a more immersive, gripping experience. The Gangster, the Cop, the Devil is deeply rooted in its Korean cultural and social context, which adds layers of meaning and nuance to its narrative. The film reflects aspects of Korean society, such as the tensions between law enforcement and organized crime, societal expectations around honor and loyalty, and the struggles of individuals navigating rigid social structures. These cultural elements influence the characters' motivations and interactions, grounding their conflicts in realities that resonate beyond the screen. Korean cinema often explores themes of justice, revenge, and moral ambiguity, and this film is no exception. The societal pressures faced by characters like Dong-seok and Tae-seok, whether it's the gangster's adherence to a personal code of honor or the cop's frustration with institutional limitations, are colored by uniquely Korean experiences and values. The film's urban setting, social dynamics, and even stylistic choices reflect a distinctly Korean sensibility that enriches its storytelling. By embedding the story within this cultural framework, the film offers viewers a more authentic and textured experience. It also contributes to the global appeal of Korean cinema by showcasing how local context can shape universal themes, making The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil both a gripping thriller and a culturally insightful work. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk Cinema. If you enjoyed this deep dive into The Gangster, The Cop, The Devil, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth reviews and storytelling breakdowns. What did you think about the film's moral complexity or its intense characters? Drop your thoughts below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep loving great cinema. See you soon.